He was the recruit nobody wanted, a zero-star athlete, overlooked and ignored by every major college program. But against all odds, Cooper Kupp defied every expectation to become the NFL's most unstoppable force. How did a player dismissed as a nobody rise to silence the critics, dominate the league, and carve his name into Super Bowl history? Today, we'll uncover the incredible journey of Cooper Kupp, a story of grit, resilience, and a relentless pursuit of greatness. This isn't just a football journey, it's a testament to the power of belief. Yakima, Washington, a quiet town, where football isn't exactly the heartbeat of the community. But for Cooper Kupp, football was part of his DNA from the very start. He was born into a family with an NFL legacy that few could claim. His grandfather, Jake Kupp, had played as a guard in the NFL during the 1960s and 70s, achieving Pro Bowl status and leaving his mark with the New Orleans Saints, where he became a franchise legend. Football, for the Kupps, was a legacy to be honored and upheld. His father, Craig Kupp, added another chapter to this story, playing as a quarterback in the early 1990s. Together, they had established a family tradition in a sport known for its fierce competition and constant turnover. A legacy of grit, skill, and ambition that now rested on Cooper's shoulders. From the moment he could walk, Cooper seemed destined to chase this family dream. While other kids were out riding bikes or watching Saturday morning cartoons, Cooper was working through grueling drills, guided by his father's unbreakable resolve. Craig wasn't just coaching his son, he was teaching him how to carry a legacy. "If you're going to pursue this," he'd say, "you'll need to give everything you have." Craig's voice was calm but relentless, demanding excellence from a young Cooper in ways most parents would never dare. For Cooper, catching a football on a 10-foot carpet in his living room wasn't just a game, it was a promise he was making to himself and to the family who had come before him. Despite his family's NFL background, there were no special privileges or shortcuts waiting for Cooper. Craig was determined that if Cooper were to follow the family path, it would be through his own sweat and dedication. This wasn't about fame or glory, it was about integrity and about proving oneself day after day. Even at 5 or 6 years old, Cooper absorbed this mindset. There were no days off, no excuses. As he ran drills on that carpet, each imaginary pass he caught was a small step forward in a journey he was only beginning to understand. The drills were repetitive, sometimes monotonous, but to Cooper, they were the foundation of something bigger than himself. By the time he reached middle school, Cooper's commitment to football had become an inseparable part of his identity. Yet, physically, he wasn't the standout. He was thin, undersized, and often looked more like the younger brother of his classmates than their peer. While his friends hit growth spurts, Cooper stayed small, forcing him to rely on the fundamentals his father had drilled into him. If he couldn't dominate with size or speed, he decided he would outthink and outwork everyone else. This, he believed, was the only way to honor the Kupp name and ensure that he, too, could become part of the family's NFL lineage. He was determined to make every catch perfect, every step purposeful. When Cooper entered Davis High School, he quickly showed that his commitment wasn't just talk. He became a standout in both football and basketball, dedicating himself to each sport with a ferocity that set him apart. Football may have been his first love, but basketball helped him develop agility and court vision, which only strengthened his skills on the football field. His coaches saw a player who took every practice seriously, who always arrived early and left late, and whose focus was unwavering. He wasn't the loudest or the biggest player, but there was a fire in his eyes that couldn't be ignored. Football wasn't just a sport for Cooper, it was his purpose. On the football field, Cooper played with an intensity that earned him the nickname The Biz. His teammates coined it as shorthand for business, because that's how he approached every play, every catch, every yard gained. For Cooper, there was no room for distractions or wasted moments. Every day on the field was another chance to prove he belonged. He knew he didn't have the physical gifts others had, so he compensated with a relentless work ethic that left even his coaches in awe. He trained as though each practice was a test, as though his dream of reaching the NFL depended on every rep, every pass, and every moment of preparation. Cooper's dedication extended beyond the gridiron. In his free time, he devoured game footage, studying the techniques of NFL receivers he admired, focusing on their routes, timing, and positioning. He would watch tapes late into the night, rewinding and replaying until he understood each movement. While others his age were enjoying their weekends, Cooper was building his mental game, developing a football IQ that would later set him apart. He was meticulous, disciplined, and driven by a quiet determination that few could understand. Football wasn't just a passion, it was an obsession that fueled him, pushing him to overcome any limits placed in front of him. By his senior year, Cooper had finally grown into his frame, and his commitment was paying off on the field. He was the go-to target for his team, racking up over 1,000 yards and scoring 18 touchdowns, even setting a school record for receptions. But despite his incredible statistics and all-state honors, Cooper's phone remained silent. As the weeks went by, no college program showed interest. Scouts saw only his size, his lack of natural speed, dismissing his production and work ethic. It was as if all his hard work meant nothing. For a young man who had given everything to this game, the lack of interest was a crushing blow. The Kupp family had tried everything to get him noticed. Cooper's grandfather reached out to his alma mater, the University of Washington, but the calls went unreturned. His father sent highlight tapes to dozens of college coaches, hoping someone would see the potential in his son. But even with a family legacy, the name Kupp didn't open doors. College recruiters only saw an undersized, slow receiver. They couldn't see the years of training, the dedication, or the drive that had made Cooper the player he was. They couldn't see the hours spent running drills on that 10-foot carpet, or the fire that drove him to prove his worth every single day. Despite all this, Cooper refused to let go of his dream. There were nights when he would sit alone, reflecting on what more he could have done, wondering if all his sacrifices had been for nothing. But each time doubt crept in, he reminded himself of the legacy he was carrying. This wasn't just about him. It was about honoring the work his father and grandfather had put in, about writing his own chapter in the family's NFL story. And so, with no offers, no scholarships, and no guarantees, Cooper held on to one simple belief: if he worked hard enough, someone, somewhere would notice. That chance finally came 3 weeks after his final high school game. Eastern Washington University, a small FCS school, offered him a spot on their team. It wasn't a prestigious program, but for Cooper, it was a lifeline. With no other offers on the table, he accepted. This was his chance to prove that all those who had overlooked him were wrong. He knew he was more than just another player. He was a Kupp, and he was ready to make his mark no matter what it took. With his acceptance to Eastern Washington University, Cooper was one step closer to his dream. But this wasn't the high-profile college football experience he'd imagined as a kid. He wasn't walking onto the field at a prestigious Power 5 school, or playing in front of packed stadiums under the Friday night lights. Instead, he was in Cheney, Washington, a small town with a modest FCS program. Cooper was back to square one, a small fish in an even smaller pond. Yet, for Cooper, this was more than enough. It was his chance to prove every college that ignored him wrong. His journey at Eastern Washington began like it did in high school, with no special treatment, no guaranteed playing time. During his first season, he redshirted, sitting out official games while working tirelessly behind the scenes. Many players might see redshirting as a setback, but for Cooper, it was a gift. It was his opportunity to learn, to absorb everything he could, and to prepare for his future on the field. Every day, he pushed himself in practice as if he were already playing in games. His work ethic quickly caught the eye of his coaches, who saw in Cooper an unwavering determination that was hard to ignore. But off the field, life wasn't easy. Cooper faced the reality of being an unrecognized player, balancing academics, a social life, and the financial strain of college. That first summer, he worked as a landscaper, laboring under the hot sun during the day and squeezing in football workouts late at night. He knew if he wanted to keep up, something had to change. When his longtime girlfriend, Anna, saw him struggling, she stepped in, offering to support him financially so he could focus entirely on his football dreams. Her belief in him was a source of strength. Cooper later said that without her, he might never have made it to the NFL. That next season, Cooper finally had his shot to play. He wasn't just good, he was unstoppable. He broke records for the FCS, catching 93 passes for 1,691 yards and scoring 21 touchdowns as a redshirt freshman. To everyone watching, Cooper's rise looked like it happened overnight. But those who knew him understood the years of sacrifice and effort behind his success. He didn't just want to be good, he wanted to be the best. And in the FCS, he had found a way to stand out. No longer the overlooked player from Yakima, but a force to be reckoned with. His performance on the field spoke volumes, but Cooper knew his journey would still face skepticism. Critics pointed to the competition level in the FCS, claiming his stats were inflated by weaker defenses and less challenging games. Cooper used that doubt as fuel, embracing the role of the underdog. He continued to grind, breaking record after record, working to become the player he knew he could be. His commitment to perfecting his roots, understanding defenses, and maximizing his potential kept him ahead of the game. By his junior year, Cooper was rewriting the FCS record books. He caught the attention of scouts and analysts across the country, who marveled at his ability to produce eye-popping stats game after game. But he didn't just want numbers, he wanted to be a leader. His teammates looked up to him, following his example both on and off the field. In the locker room, Cooper was quiet, focused, but supportive, a player who made everyone around him better. The Kupp family legacy was becoming something he could call his own, but he wasn't satisfied just yet. Each season, Cooper elevated his game. He became a four-time All-American, an FCS record holder, and the recipient of the Walter Payton Award, essentially the Heisman Trophy of the FCS. Even more impressive, he excelled not only against FCS opponents, but also in games against larger programs. When Eastern Washington faced Pac-12 teams, Cooper dominated, racking up hundreds of yards and multiple touchdowns as if to say, "I belonged here all along." Those games became his personal proving ground, where he showed the world and himself that he was meant to play on the biggest stages. Yet, despite all his success, the next step was uncertain. The NFL scouts still hesitated to view him as a can't-miss prospect. They questioned his speed, pointing to his 40-yard dash time, which was slower than other top receivers. But Rams general manager Les Snead saw beyond the stopwatch. He had heard from players like Peyton and Eli Manning, who had worked with Cooper at the Manning Passing Academy, that this young receiver had a unique talent. Snead knew Cooper was football fast, a player who could make plays in real game situations, even if he didn't have the flashy numbers. On draft day in 2017, Cooper sat surrounded by family, waiting for his name to be called. Wide receiver after wide receiver went before him, players from big-name schools with faster times and higher profiles. It was frustrating. Another reminder of the doubts he had battled his entire life. But in the third round, 69th overall, the Los Angeles Rams called his name. Cooper Kupp was heading to the NFL, not as the first choice, not even as the fifth, but as a player determined to prove he deserved every bit of that chance. For the Kupp family, the moment was monumental. Cooper was now officially part of the NFL, carrying on the family's three-generation legacy. He had taken the long road, filled with obstacles, but he had arrived. And while the doubts might linger, Cooper knew one thing with absolute certainty: his journey was only beginning. He was ready to take on the league, and he was determined to make the Rams and every team that passed on him see exactly what they had overlooked. Arriving in Los Angeles, Cooper Kupp felt the weight of both excitement and expectation. He was joining the NFL not as a star prospect, but as an underdog yet again. For most rookies, this would be overwhelming, but for Cooper, it was familiar territory. From day one, he approached his role with the same intensity that had carried him through high school and college. He knew he'd be lining up alongside seasoned veterans like Robert Woods and Sammy Watkins. The Rams roster was packed with talent, and Cooper understood he would have to prove himself all over again to secure his place. His new head coach, Sean McVay, noticed something special right away. McVay later recalled how, in a brief 15-minute interview at the NFL Combine, Cooper spoke like a coach explaining routes, coverages, and game strategy with precision. McVay was impressed, but he wanted to see how Cooper's knowledge would translate onto the field. And from the first snap of his rookie season, Kupp didn't disappoint. In his debut, he recorded 76 yards and a touchdown, a performance that made everyone pay attention. By December, he had become a full-time starter, posting close to 900 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns by season's end. His work ethic, football IQ, and relentless drive set him apart. While Kupp's rookie season was remarkable, it was about more than just numbers. For the Rams, who had just moved back to Los Angeles, Cooper's rise represented hope, a sign that this team was on the verge of something great. They finished the season with an 11-5 record, making it to the playoffs for the first time in over a decade. And though they lost in the wild card round, the Rams had something to build on, and Cooper Kupp was an essential part of that foundation. The doubters were beginning to quiet down as Cooper was finally recognized as a rising star in the league. Heading into his second year, Cooper's goal was clear: to build on his success and elevate his game even further. His role in the Rams offense expanded as the team continued to grow under McVay's innovative coaching style. The Rams added Brandon Cooks to their receiving corps, creating a three-headed monster with Kupp, Cooks, and Woods. Together, they formed one of the most dangerous offenses in the league. And Cooper quickly became quarterback Jared Goff's favorite target. With each game, his chemistry with Goff grew, and his statistics reflected it. He was well on pace to break the 1,000-yard mark. But football is as unforgiving as it is rewarding. In Week 6 against the Denver Broncos, Cooper suffered a knee injury that forced him to miss 2 games. Determined to bounce back, he returned to the lineup and quickly made an impact, catching 5 passes for 89 yards and a touchdown. It looked like the setback was temporary, and Cooper was back on track. Then, just a week later, disaster struck. While trying to make a cut against the Seattle Seahawks, his knee gave out, and he crumpled to the ground in pain. An MRI would later confirm the worst. Cooper Kupp had torn his ACL. The news hit like a punch to the gut, not only for Cooper, but for his teammates and fans who had watched his rise. For Cooper, the diagnosis was devastating. Football was everything he had worked for, and now it was being taken away, albeit temporarily. But Cooper was no stranger to adversity. He approached his recovery the same way he approached every challenge before, with determination, resilience, and a refusal to be outworked. His family, especially his wife Anna, became his strongest support system, standing by him through the darkest days of rehab. The rehabilitation process was grueling. Cooper would later describe it as one of the hardest journeys of his life. He had to relearn the basics: how to walk, how to run, and eventually, how to play football again. The Rams training staff worked tirelessly with him, focusing on rebuilding not just his physical strength, but his technique. They broke down his running form in super slow motion, identifying every imperfection. Cooper saw this as a chance to come back stronger than ever, attacking each session with precision and intensity, just as he'd done his whole life. Throughout the recovery, he leaned on visualization techniques passed down from his grandfather. Each night, he'd close his eyes and see himself making cuts, catching passes, and running routes. He mentally rehearsed his return, refusing to let doubt creep in. Those closest to him would say later that Cooper became even more disciplined during his rehab. He maintained a strict diet, tracked every metric of his progress, and stayed focused on one goal: returning to the game he loved, stronger than before. By the time he returned to the field in 2019, Cooper wasn't just back, he was transformed. His work on biomechanics had added nearly 2 miles per hour to his top speed, and his cuts were sharper, more explosive. In his first game back, he recorded over 100 yards and reminded everyone why he was so valuable to the Rams. The season was a statement, a testament to his resilience, and a message to the league that Cooper Kupp was just getting started. Kupp's comeback was an emotional roller coaster, and his performance on the field reflected that intensity. He finished the year with almost 1,200 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns, setting a new personal best. His return to form wasn't just about proving he could come back from injury. It was about showing he could be better than before. He had learned to turn adversity into fuel, using every challenge as motivation to reach new heights. The league took notice, and fans around the world marveled at the resilience and work ethic of a player who seemed destined for greatness. With the injury behind him, Cooper looked ahead to what would become the most defining chapter of his career. He had overcome every challenge, silenced every doubt, and rewritten his own story. But the best was yet to come, and Cooper Kupp was ready to show the NFL just how unstoppable he could be. After a successful return in 2019, Cooper Kupp had solidified his place as a leader on the Rams offense. Yet, despite his remarkable comeback, the next season in 2020 was challenging. With quarterback Jared Goff struggling to lead the team, Cooper's numbers dipped, and the Rams faced offensive inconsistency. He still nearly reached 1,000 yards, but the spark was missing. Cooper wasn't one to settle for a quiet season. He knew he had to push himself even further if he wanted to cement his legacy in the NFL. So while others rested in the offseason, Cooper hit the gym, refocusing his energy and strengthening both his body and mind for what would be his greatest season yet. Then came the offseason trade that would change everything. The Rams moved on from Goff, trading him to the Detroit Lions and bringing in veteran quarterback Matthew Stafford. Stafford was known for his cannon arm, his vision, and his leadership, a true upgrade that Kupp had been hoping for. Immediately, the chemistry between Cooper and Stafford was undeniable. From the first practice, they were in sync, working tirelessly to develop a connection that would become one of the NFL's most feared duos. Cooper knew that this was his chance. He had a quarterback who could elevate his game, and he was ready to seize the opportunity. Kupp's 2021 season started with a bang, and he never looked back. In just the first 3 games, he racked up 25 receptions, 367 yards, and 5 touchdowns, leading the NFL in every category. With Stafford's arm and Kupp's precision, they made defenses look helpless. Game after game, Kupp was uncoverable, cutting through defenses with routes so exact they seemed premeditated. Opposing coaches scrambled to adjust, assigning double coverage, moving their best corners on him, but nothing worked. By mid-season, Kupp was the league's top receiver, and the question wasn't if he would reach 1,000 yards, it was how far beyond it he would go. But the stats alone didn't capture the whole picture. Kupp's intelligence on the field had become one of his defining features. He wasn't just fast or agile. He was cerebral, able to read defenses and anticipate openings before they appeared. Week after week, Stafford and Kupp would spend hours studying film, refining their timing and crafting plays together. Cooper had a rare ability to adapt mid-play, creating separation with subtle moves and adjustments that made him a nightmare to cover. His coaches and teammates called him a route artist, a player who turned every movement into an opportunity. As the season progressed, it became clear that Kupp was on the verge of making history. He was in the running to achieve the Triple Crown, a feat accomplished by only a handful of receivers in NFL history. The Triple Crown, earned by leading the league in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns, hadn't been achieved since 2005. Yet Cooper, game by game, edged closer. Each catch, each yard, each touchdown brought him nearer to an accomplishment most thought impossible, especially for a player who started as a 0-star recruit in a small FCS program. By week 17, Cooper had done it. He ended the season with 145 receptions, 1,947 yards, and 16 touchdowns. Not only did he achieve the Triple Crown, but he also finished just 17 yards shy of Calvin Johnson's all-time single-season record. Kupp's performance wasn't just historic, it was legendary. The NFL took notice, awarding him Offensive Player of the Year, an honor that cemented his status as one of the best wide receivers of his generation. Fans and analysts marveled at the player who had gone from obscurity to NFL stardom, breaking records and redefining what it meant to be a wide receiver. But Cooper wasn't finished. The Rams entered the playoffs with a renewed focus, and Kupp's intensity only grew. With each postseason game, he raised his level, refusing to be stopped. In the divisional round against the defending Super Bowl champions, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Kupp caught 9 passes for 183 yards and a critical touchdown that helped seal the victory. In the NFC Championship against the San Francisco 49ers, he recorded 11 receptions for 142 yards and 2 touchdowns, carrying the Rams to the Super Bowl. Cooper had turned the playoffs into his personal showcase, and the world was watching. In Super Bowl 56, under the bright lights and with millions of fans watching worldwide, Cooper Kupp delivered one of the greatest performances of his career. With the game on the line, he caught the go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter, securing the Rams' first Super Bowl victory in over 2 decades. His stats for the game: 8 receptions, 92 yards, and 2 touchdowns earned him the game's MVP award, making him only the 8th wide receiver in history to claim that honor. It was the pinnacle of a season that had seen him rise from star to superstar, a player who had redefined himself and his position. As he held the Lombardi Trophy, with his family by his side and confetti raining down, Cooper's journey came full circle. He had achieved more than anyone had ever expected from him, silencing doubters and becoming the embodiment of resilience. His wife, Anna, who had supported him since their college days, was there to share in his victory, a reminder of every sacrifice, every challenge overcome. Cooper had made it, not just as an NFL star, but as a champion, and he had done it his way, with integrity, discipline, and relentless drive. Reflecting on his journey, Cooper later said that he believed his success was meant to inspire others to show that even when the odds are stacked against you, hard work and belief can make the impossible happen. He had turned his underdog story into one of the greatest seasons by a wide receiver in NFL history, forever etching his name alongside the legends. But as Cooper would say, he wasn't finished. This was just the beginning of a legacy he hoped would inspire future generations. As Cooper Kupp looked back on his journey, from the quiet fields of Yakima, Washington, to the blinding lights of the Super Bowl, one word kept coming to mind: gratitude. He had accomplished more than anyone, even himself, could have predicted. But for Cooper, it was never just about the records, the trophies, or the titles. His story was a testament to resilience, a journey of self-belief that had carried him through countless moments of doubt, rejection, and adversity. Reflecting on his path, he often said that his greatest goal was to inspire others who, like him, weren't given any shortcuts. Football had been the heartbeat of Cooper's life, a gift passed down through generations. Growing up hearing stories of his grandfather Jake and his father Craig, both of whom had played in the NFL, Cooper had felt the weight of that legacy. But more than that, he had felt the call to add his own chapter, to honor the family name in his own way. Despite starting as an overlooked prospect with no scholarships, Cooper had carved his own path, earning his place among the NFL's elite. His journey wasn't just a victory for himself. It was a celebration of every player who'd ever been told they weren't enough. The impact of his success stretched beyond the field. Cooper's relentless pursuit of greatness and his underdog story resonated with fans around the world. He represented more than just athletic talent. He embodied hope, perseverance, and the power of a determined spirit. For young athletes watching his rise, he was proof that the impossible could be achieved, that dreams could be reached even when the odds seemed stacked against them. Cooper's rise had become a beacon of inspiration for countless fans who saw in him the reflection of their own dreams. Through it all, Cooper remained grounded, never forgetting the people who had stood by him from the beginning. His wife, Anna, had been there for every high and every low, from their early days at Eastern Washington, when she had supported him financially so he could focus on football, to the countless nights spent together watching film and visualizing his future. Anna had been his unwavering rock. Cooper often spoke about how her belief in him was the strength he needed during his hardest moments. For them, every touchdown, every yard, every victory was something they had achieved together. Looking to the future, Cooper knew his journey wasn't complete. The Super Bowl victory had solidified his place in the league, but there was more he wanted to accomplish, more records to break, more titles to win. Yet for Cooper, it wasn't about personal glory. His drive came from a deep sense of purpose, a desire to honor his family, to show appreciation for his teammates, and to inspire the next generation of players. He knew his career would be a platform to make a difference, and he was ready to use it. Even as he prepared for the next season, Cooper found time to give back to his community. He visited schools, spoke with young athletes, and shared his story with those who were just starting their own journeys. He encouraged them to dream big, to work hard, and to believe in themselves, no matter what obstacles they faced. For Cooper, this was as rewarding as any victory on the field. Seeing young players look up to him and feel inspired reminded him of why he had fought so hard to make it to the top. As his legacy continued to grow, Cooper's name became synonymous with perseverance and excellence. Analysts and fans alike began to speak of him as one of the greatest wide receivers of his generation. He had redefined what it meant to be a receiver in the NFL, setting a standard that future players would aspire to reach. His story was etched into the history of the league, a reminder that talent alone isn't enough. It takes heart, discipline, and an unbreakable spirit to become a legend. And so, Cooper Kupp's journey remains one of the most inspiring in NFL history. He went from a zero-star recruit, overlooked by every major college, to a Super Bowl champion and MVP. Along the way, he proved that greatness isn't given, it's earned. For Cooper, each accolade, each victory was a symbol of resilience, a testament to the sacrifices he and his family had made. In the end, Cooper didn't just play football, he changed what was possible for those who dared to dream. With the next season on the horizon, Cooper knows there are new challenges to face, new records to chase, and new fans to inspire. As he steps onto the field, he carries with him not only the hopes of his team, but the dreams of every young player watching, every fan who believed in him, and every person who saw his story and found the courage to fight for their own. For Cooper Kupp, the journey is far from over, and his legacy is only beginning.